Hey guys, Station X here, and today we're going to be taking a look back at the Series X and the Series S. Two consoles that I've had for a good bit. This one I've had since the launch, and this one I've had for a few months now. As you guys will probably remember this one, I have done an unboxing on this, but it was like one of my first few unboxings I ever did. So, I figured, right? So to kick off the kind of like celebration we're doing for the 20th anniversary of Xbox, and coincidentally, it being the full year of this thing being released, both of these being released, really. I figured it'd be kind of fun to just kind of talk about the Series X a little bit, both of these consoles. Also, just what I'm excited for, because really, with the 1 year being passed, it's really not enough time to really say whether or not this thing has done a good job, bad job, or ooh. It's not like with the Xbox One, because the Xbox One immediately lampooned anybody who wanted to actually buy this thing because of the fact that it's such a bad first impression. Whereas this one, expectations for Xbox were just kind of iffy, you know? I feel like because of the reputation of the Xbox One, even if, you know, Phil Spencer was trying his hardest to get people excited about the Xbox brand, and bless his heart, he tried. I mean, he did a good job with these ones, like getting people excited for this and explaining it, what it is. And so, I mean, this, I think, is gotta be one of the, you know, I guess the more refined Xboxes we've ever had, because this, as far as what it could play, like, these things can play all 4 generations of Xbox. Now, does it play every single generation, like every single game in those generations? No. It can play every single Xbox One game. So as far as the last generation before it, it can play every single game from there. The 360, it has the exact same backwards compatibility as the Xbox One, because it's practically, as far as menus and everything else is concerned, the same. They very much went with like a continuation, like almost like a part 2 when it came to these two things. So it was a very seamless transition. If you were a big Xbox person and you knew you weren't going to buy a PlayStation, this was going to be the next thing you buy for your next gen games. It did not look different as far as presentation. Transitioning from the One to the Series X is very seamless as far as, you know, you just take your external hard drive and just plug it in, and all the games that were on that can just transfer over. Other than that, I mean, you also just put the disc in like you normally did and just play the games as well. You know, just pretty much the exact same process. I mean, the Xbox One's menu updated a few months before this thing released to have like the same menu as the Xbox One. So practically, this is just a more powerful Xbox One, which has its good and its bad. Because on the one hand, it makes, you know, like, porting it, having everything come over very easy, very seamless, and you have 100% backwards compatibility, which is something I always love and I always just appreciate, because of the fact that I don't have to worry about having any games that are not backwards compatible, like unlike with the 360 when they were trying to do it. So this thing has an A+ for that. The downsides is that you really feel like you're paying $500 for, you know, a slight upgrade. And it's not slight in the slightest, but if you're not someone who watches updates on this all the time or looks at the specs, if you're just someone who goes to the store, sees there's a new Xbox, and says, hey, what's different between this one and the other one? It's not like, I don't think many people are going to see it as like oh man. I think presentation's everything. Like, if you compare it to the PS5 looks new, it looks different, and it looks more next-gen-y, I guess, if you could say. So, I think that as far as visually and presentation-wise, it doesn't convey that it's a next-gen console, other than the fact that, hey, this is a rectangle, it's different shaped. Same thing with this one. But I will say that that really shouldn't matter as long as the games on it are good and it plays well and it does its job of being a better version of the previous generation, which so far I think it does. I mean, it's still too early to call because a lot of the games still feel the same or have more of like a samey graphics wise, like comparative to how like Call of Duty Ghosts played on Xbox One compared to 360, or Assassin's Creed 4 on Xbox One and Xbox 360. Those are another one, Battlefield 4. Those ones, to me, those were like the first 3 games I had bought for the Xbox One. And those ones, I had them on the 360, actually. I bought them on the 360, and then I later bought them on the Xbox One. And then, like, those were the first ones I had rebought from the 360 because I wanted to have, like, their next-gen versions to see if it was different, and it really wasn't. And also, what's funnily enough is that some of the games that were on 360 that had Xbox One versions became backwards compatible, like Assassin's Creed 4, and Call of Duty Ghosts. So you had you literally could compare the two on the same system, and there was not like a significant enough difference to me, at least for me, someone who's not very tech savvy or someone who doesn't really know a lot of like the nuances when it comes to that. I just didn't visually see anything. So within a 1 year difference, you're really not going to see like wow games, right? Like ones that look like, wow, this is like so much better. What you're gonna see is a lot of fast load times, which is something that they throughout both PS5 and the Series X and S, their marketing of it is they just boasted how there's just virtually no load times, or so fast it's practically not even an issue. I think the best way to test it, the best game to test that with, is GTA 5. GTA 5 is a game that came out on the 360. It was notorious for very slow loading. Took forever to get from loading the game in, to get to the story, to the multiplayer, and all this other garbage. And playing on the Xbox One, it was obviously a lot faster. And then playing it on the Series X, the Xbox One version, was so much faster on both systems. But specifically with Series X, it was just so much faster. And it's just so unbelievable because I remember playing the original version and just being like, wow, this is a great game, but it's so slow. And now it's like so much faster. I wished that was a thing back then. But, you know, that's just it with it. A lot of the games get to experience that fast, no load time kind of thing. And that's just something that's really neat with a lot of the older games specifically, not to mention new games that will have like very seamless or not even noticeable load times. Another thing that I like about the Series X is that the fact that you can do like quick resume things. You could literally have like how iPhone has apps that you could have open simultaneously. You can just quickly switch between the two. And that's essentially what this does, and I thought that was really nice. So I could juggle between playing 2 different games at the same time with these 2 consoles, and I just thought that was really good. Now, something specifically for this guy right here, the fact that he has no way to play physical games, is that this one's a lot smaller, a lot more, you could just like fit it in a lot more places in your house compared to this. It's a very big and beefy boy, so this is not going to very much fit in a lot of places that, you know, like different entertainment centers or quite have you, whereas this is a lot more flexible in that area. Now, another thing is that it's very good at being just kind of like an all-around, I guess you could say it's like the best streaming box in a sense, because you could put all your applications like Netflix's and stuff like that, Disney Plus, and you can have all your downloaded games. If that's the type of person you are that only has downloaded games, boom, this is perfect. And then the fact that you could fit this almost anywhere is just amazing. Something I plan on doing, I mentioned this, I believe I mentioned this before in my unboxing, but I do want to turn this into an emulation machine, since you can do that. Since I already have this to use for my normal Xbox stuff, I would like to turn this into like almost an all-in-one kind of thing, which is something, again, that the Xbox kind of allows you to do in a sense. Not so much they don't really advertise it that way, but like you can put on director's mode, or I believe that's what it's called, on these consoles because they double as a development kit, and you can, you know, essentially make this a perfect emulation machine. And so I think that's really neat as well. You could do so much with the Xbox, essentially. I've always been an Xbox fan, since essentially the Xbox is what made me transition from just kind of like playing games casually to playing games like all the time. And I really like grew a passion for it. So it's nice to see that the 4th generation of Xbox is really starting to get in gear, whereas Xbox One really felt like the death of Xbox. And I will get more detailed into that in the next video, but essentially this is like redeeming the Xbox One's mistakes, because we're starting to see titles that haven't gotten they never got an Xbox One sequel, but you know, franchise has just been dormanted for so long. Things like Fable and Perfect Dark are 2 perfect examples that have gotten announced that they're going to have a new title in their franchises, which hopefully opens the door, if they do very well, for other ones, like pretty much all the Rare games. I mean, just to name some like that, like Rare, like Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Kazooie, just to name those 2. And other ones, Viva Pinata is another one. Like games that just, like, if you look back at the 360 had way more exclusive games than the Xbox One. Xbox One barely has anything. So the 360 not only reigniting their old franchises again, but also trying to start new ones. It's been a recent, you know, fairly recent development that, you know, they've been buying a bunch of studios. And I mean, right before this thing launched, they bought Bethesda. So I mean, you're gonna have the Bethesda games probably work a lot better on this one, because I know you're not going to see that, like, I guess, exclusivity kind of thing right away, because they did say they are going to fulfill their promises on, like, the fact that, if they announced a game that was going to be on PlayStation, they will fulfill that. But going to the midway point or towards the end of the Series X, you're going to see Bethesda games only on Xbox. I mean, it just makes sense. If it doesn't end up being that way, Microsoft's very generous, because I know Minecraft's something that they own but they don't make exclusive. That kind of makes sense, because before Microsoft bought it, it was already on other platforms, so taking it away would kind of piss people off. You know, it's not like the Bethesda thing could be comparable to what happened to Rare, because Rare was on other platforms and then it eventually just kind of transitioned into Xbox stuff instead of just being on like Nintendo, for example. Bethesda will now probably just eventually kind of transition into having only games on the Xbox. But I see a really bright future for this thing, unlike how the Xbox One, which just seemed like you started from the bottom and it was just an uphill battle to just get people to like the thing, and just no one was going for it. Whereas these 2 right here, like these consoles, this is heavy to move. That's why I haven't attempted to move it. These 2 consoles right here, whether you prefer all digital or having the option to switch between the 2, these both right here have valid arguments for why you should have one. And for one, why I feel like it's going to have a more head-to-head competition with PlayStation, whereas PlayStation just kind of stealing the generation essentially because Microsoft did some bad mistakes. Hopefully now that they've learned from that, they can get back what they've had before with the 360, their reputation of just being a really good console for online games and such, because that's what I associate Microsoft and Xbox with. Is Microsoft, like the Xbox systems, are really good at multiplayer games. I always associated PlayStation with really good single-player stuff, and Nintendo more so the family-oriented stuff. Each console had their own specific thing that they're good at, and I really want Xbox to have more of like a chance compared to how the Xbox One, just no one wanted it. But that'll pretty much be it. This one's probably going to be a little shorter just because of the fact that, like I said, it's only been a year. Hasn't too much happened, really. So we're just going to hope and pray that the Xbox this generation will do good. But stay tuned for the next episodes, because we're going to have essentially, this is going to be a 4-part thing for Xbox's 20th anniversary, starting with these guys being the first episode. We're going to be talking about the Xbox One next, followed by the 360 and the original Xbox on the same day it releases. So, hope to see you there, and have a good day.